Alright, so let's see how we can delete a resource or a blog post in our database. Let's start by going to our dashboard component, and in our table we have a placeholder for this delete button, which is going to be a form. So let's create a form and leave the action empty for now. Within the form we will have a button of type submit, although we don't have to specify that, but I'm just gonna add it, and the text should say delete. So this is our button or our form. Now when we submit this form, we want to fire an action or a server action. So let's open our posts.js under actions folder. We already have create and update. We want to create another function that is going to be delete. Let's say export async function, and let's call this function delete post, and let's accept state and form data, even though we are not actually using the state, but let's just leave it there. And similar to these functions, we want to check if the user is authenticated, then try to delete a post. So I'm just going to copy these statements from update post and paste it here. This first check is quite simple. We are just checking if the user is logged in or not. Next, we want to find the post we want to delete. So let's say find the post. And we already learned how to grab the post ID that we are trying to interact with when we updated a post. So we can use the form data and a hidden input field on our form to send the ID of that resource back to our server action. Let's go back to the table and this form right here. Let's create an input field of type hidden. Let's give it a name post ID and add the default value that is going to be post ID, and then use the toString method here. So here is our input field in our delete form. Now let's go back to the server actions and first try to connect to our database. Let's grab the posts collection and we will set this to await get collection posts. And again, similar to the update function, we want to find that post we want to delete. So let's say await posts collection, use the find one method, and we want to find based on the ID. So let's say underscore ID. We will set this to object ID again from MongoDB, create from hex string, and then in here we can directly use the form data get post ID. All right, so that will give us a post. Next, we want to check if the user is the owner of that post. So we want to check if the auth user owns the post. Let's add an if statement here and say if user.userid was not the same as our post user ID. So this user ID is coming from our cookies again, and the post user ID is coming from our database. So we want to say if post user ID to string was not the same as the user ID from the cookies, then return a redirect to the home page. So we don't want to delete the post, we want to redirect the user back to the home page. But if everything is correct and proper, we want to delete the post. To delete a resource or a document from a MongoDB collection, we can grab that collection and then use the find one and delete method. This is looking for an object that is going to be the filters or the criteria, and we want to search based on the ID, and we want to use the post ID that we get from our database. So this is pretty much it, except one last step, and I'm going to leave that out intentionally for the time being. So let's use this function now in our form in the dashboard component. So right here we have the form. Let's add the curly brackets and say delete post. So make sure you import that function, and if we've done everything correctly, this should work. Let's go back to our website, give it a reload, press delete, and we get an error that we are trying to use this get on the form data. Let me see, we are using a form. In here we are using get. Okay, so I made a mistake here and I grabbed this state even though we are not using the React hooks to interact with our form, because we are not using the use action state from React. So we don't even have a state. So sorry about that. Make sure you delete this state from the parameters of delete post function, and this should solve our problem. So back to the website. Again, I'm going to reload and press delete. You notice nothing happened and we can still see the post, but if I reload, it's gone. Let's do it again. And this is the part I left out intentionally. I'm just going to create a new post here. We are back to the dashboard. I'm going to press delete. Nothing's happening. But if I reload, it's actually gone. It is deleted from our database. So this happens when we are trying to update the state on the same page and we are not navigating to other pages. So far, whatever we've been doing has ended up in a redirect. For example, creating a post or going to another page to see a post, or register or login, all of them ended up in a redirect. But in terms of deleting, we are not redirecting anywhere because we want to be on the dashboard. Of course, this problem would be solved if we create a redirect in our delete function and just say, go back to the dashboard. But this is a redirect. So if I reload and delete, you can see I am back to the dashboard, but that was kind of going on a loop, and it's not the proper way to do this. So let's create a new post again and go back to our delete function. Instead of using this redirect from Next, we want to use another function that is called revalidate path. Notice this is being imported from Next/cache. So let's use this first and I will explain. Similar to the redirect function, this is looking for a path, and we want to revalidate the dashboard path. So first, make sure you import this from Next/cache. Now let's go back to our website, give it a reload just to be sure, and press delete. Notice this time the page was updated, but we didn't do a redirect. Let me create two posts. So post 1, and let's do another one, post 2, and press submit. And I'm going to delete post 2. There we go. It was done on the fly. So this is a very nice feature of Next.js, and it will revalidate the cached data. So this function, for instance, will purge the cache data of a specific route or path. In this case, we are saying, take a look at the cache data of our dashboard page and then regenerate them. So because we are not actually navigating to any other page, we are revalidating this same page or this same path. And that is done through this function of Next/cache. So this function is quite useful if you have, for example, your form and the content on the same page. Imagine our create form was on the same page, and then we will list them here. So when we create or submit the new data to our database, we want to revalidate that path so it would be visible on the screen. Alright, so everything is done except one last video that is going to be about middlewares. And that is for protecting certain routes from auth or guest users. For example, we are logged in right now, but we can still go to the register page, even though there is no point because we are already registered. So let's see how we can apply middlewares in a Next.js application.